Hello, America! You know what today is. It's pretzel day. So I divided the dough into 7 pieces. The instructions say 12, and I don't know how that's supposed to work. We're going to make 7 pretzels. So first, you want to roll each dough into a large snake. You can use a roller. This roller you can put end caps on the end to different diameters. I just kind of roll it thin, and then I roll the dough onto itself. So that gets me the width, and then I can just fix the diameter by rolling. And that's the best way I found to really get a good length on the pretzel dough. It says you want an 18-inch rope, and we're not measuring anything, so you know, just roll until you run out of counter space or something. Now, I did spray the counter down with a little bit of oil just to help things from sticking. And then I'll do a little like jump rope move that really helps stretch it out as well. As soon as you stop rolling or anything, it does contract on itself. Maybe you can put it in the fridge or something to stop that. I don't know. And then I'll do this little Play-Doh hand rolling action. The thing about bread and pretzel and cake, any of that stuff, it's really just playing with Play-Doh. You knead it with your hands, but then you get a tasty snack at the end. So it's really nice. I always struggle. I made these 3 or 4 times with how to make a pretzel shape. Once I get one, then I can just copy it. But I always forget what a pretzel looks like. Like, I've eaten hundreds of pretzels in my life. Whenever I go to make a pretzel shape, I'm like, it takes me 3 or 4 tries. So maybe Google an image of a pretzel or have a recipe as a reference if this is something that you also struggle with. I don't know. This is sourdough pretzel dough. All sourdough is yeast that you grow yourself in your kitchen, like some kind of lab experiment. With all the stores being out of everything ever, flour and yeast and toilet paper, one of the first things to go. But you can grow yeast in your own house, which is pretty sweet. You just leave like flour and water sitting in a jar for a couple days. Occasionally throw in more water and more flour. If you see spots of color, throw it out. That's bad bacteria. Otherwise, it'll smell kind of citrusy, and you'll see like air bubbles and stuff. But this is a little bit of sourdough with some packaged yeast. I don't know why, but I did finally find some in this recipe has it. Unlike the last couple batches of pretzels that just had the sourdough and were just as delicious and had good texture. So, is that a pretzel? That is a pretzel. These are considerably less tacky than my last couple of rounds. I don't know why. The other ones were incredibly sticky and would stick to my hands and the surface and the rolling pin. There's a lot wetter and will contract a lot more. So these are actually holding the pretzel shape pretty well, which is pretty nice. After we... Oh, it's ready. You can be preheating during this step, so save yourself some waiting time later. I am very hungry, and making pretzels is not a quick process. You do let them sit to rise a little bit, not as much as like a loaf of bread, which is like in the hours. You let it sit for like an hour. So, okay. I did watch the Pretzel Day of the Office like an hour ago too, while these were rising, so that was a coincidence. But when you always have the Office on loop, eventually you'll be watching the Pretzel Day episode, so it's just a matter of probability. I realize I'm wearing my Spider-Man shirt, so I should have been wearing my Hulk apron. I saw a comic book cover the other day that had like, Spider-Man riding on Hulk's shoulder, and it looked awesome. I think it was done by Gabriel Dell'Otto, I believe. Bet you didn't expect comic book facts in this baking video. Take that, Martha Stewart. Okay. I'm going to adjust my spacing now that we're getting to the end game. Boom, comic book reference. After we do this, we're going to spread on a malt. I don't know what malt is. I just melt some sugar and some water. I probably should have done that already. Oh well. But melt some sugar and water and it does a glaze. That's kind of the sweet taste you get from pretzels, I think. And then it contrasts really well with the salty. And I do have sea salt. Not sponsored by Morton's. This video is not. We're not sponsored. I think I had a double knot in there. That might have confused you. Just to be clear, in case you are curious about the production quality of these videos, we have no sponsors. Okay. So the interesting thing, if you look at bread recipes, they're all the same, right? They're all add a little bit of water, add a little bit of flour. Yeah. This one's going back to the drawing board. Add a little water, add a little flour, add a little butter, add a little salt. The variables really comes down to time, right? And the proportions, obviously. But the difference really between bread and pretzels is just how long you're letting it sit. You're really only letting it sit there for an hour, so it's not rising. So it has a little bit of yeast rise to it, but it's actually pretty dense. It doesn't have a lot of the air developing that bread does. There we go. And then they also kind of the glaze. So some people will sprinkle or steam the end of it to give it a crust. This has the sugar glaze on the outside, so that really affects too the texture of that crust and the overall flavor. So that's one of the deciding factors when it comes to different breads. We're going to add an extra spin to that one. Yeah, that looks nice. Are pretzels supposed to have an extra spin in them? I don't know. Well, let's be honest. They're all going to taste the same. Okay. This is the last one. I have a little bit of seam in there when I folded it over, so that kind of helps make it into a hole. Let's add that bonus twist again. Nice. Okay. So, pretzels. Now we get to the glaze. How did I do this before? Let's take a small bowl. 2 tablespoons of water. Small brush, kind of clean. Tablespoon of sugar. You know what they say, a tablespoon of sugar helps the pretzels go down. Okay. We're going to stir it a little bit, but I didn't use cold water this time, so it should be pretty good. I'm going to heat this up a little bit, just to help it dissolve. That's science, right? But pro tip, do this earlier, and that way it has a little more time for that sugar to dissolve in the water. Just give it a little bit more of a head start for you. Okay. Oops. And what's nice is after you use this sugar water to brush on the pretzels, you can drink with stuff left over, and it is delicious. Or you can make your own sugar water at home. I used a different bowl last time. I think I used the measuring liquid measure that has a much higher size. So I'm just spilling this everywhere. And that's how you get ants. Okay. So the recipe says you're going to get 12 pretzels. I've never gotten more than 7 this time. Usually I get like 5 or 6. Again, maybe I'm making the pretzels too large, too thick, whatever. It works for me. And they taste all the same. But there always is some of this liquid malt that you put on it, a lot left over. So maybe the recipe for this is proportionate to, 12 pretzels and not 7, 5, or 6. So if you're making these at home and you also end up with a few number of large pretzels, you can probably adjust how much sugar and water you're doing. I just keep the same amount because, like I said, it's also a healthy and delicious baking beverage that you can drink after the fact. But right now I'm being very liberal with the application because I know I have a lot just from doing this before. And maybe next time I'll adjust the liquid and the sugar appropriately, but not today. The other thing is, I don't know where you're going to put 12 pretzels. 7, just barely fit on the sheet. It's the same amount of dough. I guess if I did make them smaller or thinner, but I really don't know how where I put it anymore, because you still need space in between them. Anyway. Sugar water. That's the stuff. It's warm sugar water too. Okay. It says you want a coarse salt for the pretzels. You can use the same pretzels. It works pretty well. And the sugar water does help them stick. It says do it lightly, but the salt's the best part. And we just drank sugar water, so we're not trying to be that healthy today, let's be honest. Okay, now we're going to bake these for 20 to 25 minutes. Or 25 to 30. Cool. So, I'm not going to make us sit here for 25 minutes. Maybe I will. I'll be right back. Found it. Spider-Man and Hulk. Spider-Man and Hulk. Gabriel Dell'Otto, I believe. Dell'Otto. Sorry. Okay. Well, that was worth 2 minutes of silence.